Good afternoon. I'm Rodney Rogers, president of Bowling Green State University, and thank you for joining us on this live stream. We're having a conversation with the new athletic director at Bowling Green State University, Derek Vandermeer. Derek's our 15th director of athletics here at BGSU, and it's an honor to have you here at Bowling Green. Your official start isn't until November 30th, but Derek and his family spent this week with us getting a lay of the land and having an opportunity to meet with various individuals, student athletes, coaches, community members. And so we thought we would take this occasion to have a short conversation. I want to remind everyone that you can post questions and send us questions that you might have, both to the YouTube and Facebook live stream chat. So if you wanted to put a question there, or send an email to president@bgsu.edu. And we've got individuals monitoring the chat as well as the email box to ask or to respond to your questions so we can hear a little bit more from Derek. So Derek, it is great to have you here at Bowling Green. We're coming live from the Stroh Center, home of the volleyball program, men's and women's basketball, and it was busy as we just came in here. We've got men's basketball heading north to Oakland. We've got volleyball heading to Buffalo. Let's see, what else do we have going on? Lots of activities in this building. But we're pleased to have you, excited to have you and your family joining us here at Bowling Green. So I've got a couple of questions I want to kick it off with. And so tell me, what excites you about this opportunity with the Mid-American Conference, the CCHA, and the athletic program here at Bowling Green State University?
Well, first off, it's a great honor to be here. I know Bowling Green well. I grew up in the Mid-American Conference. I was a student athlete in the Mid-American Conference. Was a walk-on student athlete who chose to become part of a program and fought for the opportunity to earn a scholarship and compete. I spent then, after being a student athlete for 5 years, I spent close to another 16, 17 years working full-time in the MAC. So I've traveled the roads of the MAC from northern Illinois to Buffalo, down to Ohio, to eastern to western to Bowling Green. And throughout those years of experiencing the Mid-American Conference, Bowling Green was a very special place because I always witnessed the fan base, the passion of this fan base. There's been a lot of great people that have gone through this university that have gone on and done other great things professionally. But this was a place where everything kind of grew in our league, and you could see that time, year in, year out, there was just so much vibrancy in this community. So a chance to come be a part of this was very special for me. I left CMU over 10 years ago and became an athletics director. Went to University of first off went to Austin Peay State University as an AD. Left athletics, became a senior vice president at a university, and then left that. Became deputy AD, chief operating officer at University of Arizona. But when I saw this opportunity become available, the chance to become part of this community and serve this institution was a great opportunity I did not want to miss.
Great.
Yeah.
So Derek, our mantra here at Bowling Green is public university, public good. Mm-hmm. So tell me, what do you see athletics' role in the life of the university?
Yeah. I'll draw on a very personal experience for me because this is very important to me at a very personal level. As I've seen how athletics can be transformative in the culture of a community. And let me give you an example of that. I was 1994, 95, I was in South Africa for the Rugby World Cup. And what I got to experience during that period was the transition out of apartheid. I grew up in South Africa, got to see firsthand the impact that it had on the country and the people. And it was during a time period where there was a lot of tension, there was a lot of uncertainty about the leadership of Nelson Mandela. And the Rugby World Cup was hosted, and many of you have seen the movie Invictus, and you understand the consequence of how he rallied around the team and the identity of the team to help build a sense of community and culture. And I think that I've always gravitated to sport because of that experience, because I can see that the power of success, the power of building around student athletes or around athletes and their identity and their quest for excellence, how that can pull a community together. So working in athletics and being a part of a culture of building something great in the community has always been a passion of mine, and it excites me. It excites me to pull people in and help them to be informed of the great stories of our student athletes.
Great. So, whenever you make a transition, and you've been at quite a few different institutions, but as you come into the new community, a new opportunity like this, often people talk about, 30, 60, 90. What's the first 30 days? What's your strategy in the first 30, 60, 90 days of this transition?
Well, I think, the first thing when I've been asked that question is making sure I understand what's important to you. What's important to the president, learning the values and the culture that the president's trying to create, because I always say leadership is such a leader, in defining position and goals and direction. So that's really important to me. Secondly is relationships. Being fearless about relationships, putting yourself out there, reaching out to people, reaching out to the students, reaching out to our faculty and our campus community, our local community, our donors and supporters and ticket holders, being fearless about, making sure that they understand that they're part of the story that's going to make us great. The more fragmented, disengaged that you see people become, unfortunately, it results in what I believe is kind of this outcome of failure. We build programs around our communities. We build it around our supporters and our students. If we do that right, then all of a sudden the student experience, our student athlete experience changes. I can tell you this as a former student athlete, I competed for the people that were in the stands. And when there are people in the stands and they're part of that story, you rise to a different level of competition. So my responsibility is to work with our teams and our coaches and our student athletes to understand that responsibility of pulling people in and making them part of the story.
So let's start with the student athlete experience. So what are some kind of guiding principles, or what does that experience look like? In a perfect world, what would you like to say I have created for our student athletes across to all of the sports that we have here at Bowling Green?
Well, being a student athlete was transformative in my life. I had amazing coaches that all these years later, they're still my greatest mentors. But I can also point to faculty that they're still some of my greatest mentors. The faculty athletic representative, Jay Schneider, his father, Walt Schneider, was one of my greatest mentors academically. The impact that faculty, staff, and coaches play in the lives of these student athletes is not just 4 years, that brief window of time. It's throughout their entire experience. It's a multi-generational impact on the way that my children interact with this experience of athletics and the opportunities that it's been afforded because of my experience of being a student athlete. So understanding the consequence of how we can impact their lives. So I think understanding the transformational aspect of what we have in a duty and responsibility to the student athletes is very important. I want them to have a great experience. And how you do that is understanding the role that a true mentor and a coach can play in their lives. They come to college, we saturate their experience with this very disciplined approach to, from eating and nutrition to competing at high levels and traveling and going to class, and we expect success at all different fronts. But in the part of that is how do we develop a relationship that they understand that there's a community around them that's helping them to be successful. And that's what I want. This is a community that really values relationships and will invest in them and do it the right way. Great,
thank you. Just want to remind our viewers, anything you want to post in the chat box, we're monitoring that for questions that you might have, or president@bgsu.edu. A couple of additional questions I have before we kind of open it up for questions from our audience. So you mentioned the student athlete experience and the importance of that coaching to those students, but you also brought up faculty, staff, and I want to extend this to the community as well. So tell me, what are some of your strategies of engaging that broader community to certainly support our student athletes, support athletics, support the university?
Yeah.
What are some strategies there that you could see could be effective here?
Well, I think over the years, I've worked in athletics and outside of athletics, and the power of higher education is our student stories. You know, we get so focused on the wins and the losses. Everything that we do is, you know, did we win the game last night? Did we lose? And then we move on to the next game. Last night, you know, we lost the game. However, we had 100 student athletes that represented Bowling Green on that field. Some of them are biology majors, some of them are chemistry majors, some of them are, you know, they come from communities from Michigan, they come from all over this country. Some of them grew up abroad, you know, like you look at my background. You know, what do we know about them as human beings and as people? Because as a community, we connect with people. We don't connect with, you know, just scores and outcomes. We connect with them as human beings. And so our responsibility is making sure that our student athletes are approachable, that who they are as people is clearly understood, making sure their story is understood, giving them opportunities to really be a part of the Bowling Green community, for example, and our local community, and even our alumni understand who they are as people. And I think that draws in a lot of people. Faculty come to games because they're in the classrooms. They know these individuals. Students come and support their peers because they're students just like them. We've got to continue to tell that story very effectively. And I've seen as you develop that narrative and people understand them as people, they want to support them because they want to see their institution, their peers be successful.
Right. So, and we'll get to some questions in just a minute, but so Derek, when you were interviewing, you obviously living in Tucson, and we had some airport interview with some finalists, certainly, and I just think it's kind of interesting. It might be an interesting story to tell about your adventure.
Yes.
When you left your home in Tucson, trying to get to the Detroit airport for an interview. Yeah. Did you have any kind of disruptions in that journey?
Oh, absolutely. There was a few disruptions. So I left Tucson. It was a 2-hour ride to Phoenix. I get to Phoenix. I have to wait. I actually board an airplane. And I'm like, oh, great, I'm going to be right on time for that connector out of Midway in Chicago, and I'll get to Detroit. We get taken off the airplane because there's a service issue on the airplane. So we sit there and wait another couple hours, and then we reboard the airplane, and then we wait another hour to leave Phoenix. And at that point, it was too far gone. I mean, I knew I was going to miss that connector. So I'm texting with my wife. I'm saying, please, can you get me potentially a rental car? I may have to, or find me an alternate flight into Detroit if we can get out of either O'Hare or Midway. So then by that point flying to Midway, I'm trying to text her the entire way there, trying to make arrangements. She's got me a car rental, obviously at Midway, and I said, well, then I'm just going to drive through the night. I'll get there. I land in Midway. There's no car. The car that was secured, and then every other place, it all closed at 10 o'clock, so there was no ability to get a car. And then I'm stuck in a fenced-in area that none of the Uber drivers could get into. So then I'm having to go around this fence area because the Uber driver couldn't come into it. So I finally, throw all my stuff over to the other side. We get into the Uber. He takes me to O'Hare. I rent a car at O'Hare, start driving at about midnight, 12:30. And I drive throughout the night and then get to Detroit at probably about, I think, 5 o'clock. End up getting there about 5 o'clock because you lose an hour coming over. And so it's about 5:30 in the morning, and my interview was at 10, and so I had to prep for a couple hours. So it was I think I may have had about 30 minutes of sleep when I walked into the interview. So I was there, did the interview, and I was pleasantly surprised I moved on beyond that point because you don't know if you're all there sometimes in the middle of the process. But it was it was just great meeting the people of Bowling Green during the course of the process. But it was that I wasn't going to be told no. I knew I needed to get there, and I knew it was important that I be on time, and that was the most important thing to me. So
grit, perseverance, the never give up attitude.
Never give up. Never give up.
I love
we'll
it.
get there. We got to get there.
Yeah.
So
well, that's great. So let's open it up for some questions that might have come in. Colleen.
Yes, we have received a few questions regarding student athlete wellness and well-being, specifically around nutrition. Do you have any thoughts you can share on any kind of goals or vision that you have around that specific topic?
Yeah. So I played offensive line in college, and I can say that I played at about 320 pounds. So throughout life, whenever I'm out and I'm at social gatherings or events, I always say I'm a recovering offensive lineman. So what does that mean? That means that you have to be careful. And And I understand the value of the student athlete experience, but also being fully informed as to the impact that it has on your body and what you have to do to be optimal for competition. I've seen the evolution of the sport and the intensity of commitment of student athletes to competing at a high level. And so being well educated, being well informed, not only of the consequence of how you're eating is impacting your performance today, because between sleep and eating, the two most significant factors in physical growth and success. So making sure we have educational awareness, making sure we have available services, but then also the longer term consequence. How do you transition out of a sport that you're eating 3,000 to 4,000 calories a day in order to be effective to when you're sitting at a desk, working on Excel spreadsheets? How do you have to change the way you think about your diet and your commitment is something that I'm committed to through life and learning as I go as well. But I think it's very important for our student athletes to understand that, and I have a responsibility to make sure they're informed and educated.
Another question about the baseball program. Can you share more of your hopes and vision for the baseball program?
Oh, absolutely. Well, baseball here is a proud tradition. We've had, and that's something that's, when you start to look at the legacy of the program here and our potential for success, we've got to continue to build this program. We've got to invest in this program in order to ensure its long-term success and sustainability. I think that I'm excited. I think that we have a great coaching staff. I met the student athletes. I came to an event here on Tuesday night and met all the student athletes in the team. And you can see that this is a program that is working hard. They're doing everything that they can to be successful. So my goal is to work with our coaching staff, making sure that we continue to build a team of individuals that are supportive of this program. Donor support moving forward is critical, just like it is for all of our programs. But the people that care about this, we've got to get them connected, we've got to get them involved. We've got to make sure that they understand the importance of their investment in the future of this program, and that's something that I'll commit to while I'm here.
A question, Derek, about you and your family. Can you
Yes.
talk a little bit about the transition to Bowling Green for your family?
No, absolutely. So my family has, much like growing up, I lived in 3 different countries and went to 12 different schools. So I'm not opposed to change. I enjoy the challenge of change. So I've had kids that have moved with me through my many transitions. I have a daughter that's graduated. I have a daughter that's a senior at Arizona State University. I have a freshman at Northern Arizona, and they're going to stay, obviously, in Arizona and finish up their collegiate experience. And then I have a 4-year-old. And so she has joined. She's here this week with me, with my wife, and they're excited about joining the Bowling Green community. I think as soon as this announcement was made, I think within 24 hours, my wife had the house on the market, and we are moving rapidly. We have trying to get it sold here in the next couple of weeks, and we're already looking at homes in this community. We want to get here as quickly as we can. We want to join this community and become an integral part of what makes Bowling Green great.
A few questions coming in about the profile of athletics programs. How are those determined, and do you foresee any changes?
Yeah, well, I'll start on the profile of a program. I think that a profile is part of when you start to look at programs and their development, I always say is that it's very difficult, even in the Mid-American Conference, for a program, when you talk about profile, we're really talking about the success of the program and where we're going with overall success. What you start to see is there's a natural attrition that occurs within programs, and it's very cyclical. Every program should be in a state of constantly building and improving. And so when I look at profiles of programs, I want to see a great student athlete experience. That's the number one thing. I met with our starting quarterback's father last night at the game, and I asked him, I said, tell me about your son's experience at Bowling Green. And he said he has had an amazing experience. He loves being a part of this program. He loves the school. So that's really important to me. The profile is student athletes that are truly having an amazing experience. And I want to see that in all of our student athletes. So and I believe if they're having a great experience, that's the foundational building block. And then how is that program developing? And where are they in the stage of development? Every program is different. I need to meet every one of our sport coaches, spend time, understand their vision, understand what they're trying to achieve, understand their timelines that they're trying to achieve, their recruiting cycles. You can't make informed decisions until you truly understand how these programs are wired and the goals of these coaches. And so I'll understand their vision for it, and then we'll work together collectively to achieve it, goals together.
A question about competition. What is your vision for steps to increase competition for specifically this question is around the football program within the MAC and with other group of 5 teams?
No, appreciate it. So I can say this is that there's 2 different parts to that question, but the first question is, I would say improving competition or improving quality is if you look across the MAC, in any given day, any team can win. That's what's great about the Mid-American Conference. People talk about the resource gap between the Power Fives and all the other institutions in Division I, and there is a resource gap. But what's unique about this conference, what has always made it special for me, is that at any given day, a team can rise and compete at a very high level, and working with our coaches to ensure that we're continuing to improve and are able to achieve that within this conference. When you start to look at the Power Five right now, there's so many different things that are kind of structurally challenging the Power Five. Coming from Arizona, I can tell you this: our challenges, whether it be financial or transfer portal or NIL, I mean, they're as challenging at that level. And you're in the Pac-12 conference, we're experiencing very similar types of issues. We can't worry about all the circumstances that we can't control. We've got to focus on this program and its evolution and development. Working with our coaches to make sure that Scott Loeffler's goals are identified, that we're working collaboratively with him to identify resources to help him grow and be competitive in this conference will be my sole focus. And then we'll look at other opportunities for competition beyond that.
What will your first 90 days look like?
First 90 days. Well, I started out, Dr. Rogers asked about that 30-day window, learning and making sure that we value the student athlete experience. I think it's once we get beyond that point, we're going to start to identify what I believe is an important strategic plan for athletics that's aligned with the university. The university has a great, strategic plan that's really focused on the public good, advancing and serving the public good. What does that look like for athletics moving forward? How do we support the mission of the university and helping it to achieve its goals? During the recruitment process or interview process, Dr. Rogers said to me, why not Bowling Green State University? I believe that that's going to be my commitment, is making sure that everything that we do in athletics is serving the greater institutional public good, and that we are servicing the interests and the mission of the university to help it grow, to be regionally significant. When we play on national television, we're nationally significant. The brand of what Bowling Green stands for is an audiences from one end of the country to the other. I can be sitting in Tucson, which I have, watching the Bowling Green football game, is realizing that reach is impacting people across the country. The relevancy of the brand is my responsibility, and using the athletics platform, a visible external platform, to reach the entire country and tell the story about why we're a great institution.
How will you use your background with other universities to engage students with the athletics programs?
Yeah. So, I've been at a mid-major institution. I've been at a small FCS institution. I've been at a Power 5 institution and now back at a Mid-American Conference program. Throughout all of those experiences, the one thing that I have seen, and even see it very evident at Bowling Green State University with the leadership of Dr. Rogers, is a passion and commitment to the student experience. It's once we as faculty and staff all share that interest and that commitment, it's transformational to a campus community. When students know that we care, that we're committed to them. I talked about my personal experience and how faculty and coaches have impacted me, because it was more than a job. It was, they wanted to see me be successful. They invested in me personally. The coaches that touched my life and continue to touch not only my life, but my children's lives, because they still care. They care about their birthdays. They care about who they are as people and what they're becoming. That transformational impact is multi-generational. We have to understand the power of our roles. No matter where I'm at, even when I was at Austin P, making sure that the student athletes understand that they're important to the campus community and to the culture, and that we value them participating in athletics and being a part of the program is something that you'll see every day in my commitment to this university.
A question about hockey. Hockey holds a very special place in Bowling Green and in our athletic programs here. Can you talk a little bit about your vision for how you hope to improve the hockey program here? In particular, where do you see the program going?
Yeah. Well, I grew up in Detroit in the late 80s, so you have to, my passion for the Detroit Red Wings during that period of time was, I mean, what a great time period for hockey in Detroit. So I've always valued and appreciated hockey. I remember watching Bowling Green compete at Joe Louis Arena back in that period of time as well. I would go to the collegiate hockey championships that were held, or the tournament that was held there during that period of time. So I understand the importance and value that hockey has to this institution. 10 NCAA appearances, a national championship, 2 Frozen Four, appearances. This is a program that has a strong history and legacy of success. It is an important part of the fabric of this community and the student experience through decades and decades. I understand the responsibility to uphold that and to invest in that, and making sure that we make sure we're relevant in hockey into the indefinite future. So that's something that I will embrace. I'll work with our coach, I'll work with Ty, and to make sure that this is something that we invest in and are committed to moving forward.
Is there a message that you would share with season ticket holders?
Through all these experiences, the consumer experience, and season ticket holders, they're consumers. They walk in our facilities, they choose to come there. On a Wednesday night, they could be a lot of other places. They choose to come in and be a part of our experience. We are going to have a welcoming environment. We're going to continue to work on how we can improve that experience, whether it be concessions or game day experience, but every part of what touches their desire to be there, we're going to work on improving. We're going to making sure it's quality. You chose to come to us and spend an evening with us and watch our events. We're going to ensure that you have a great experience when you're there.
This is a question for both Derek and President Rogers. What does success look like in this role?
We'll start with you.
Oh, certainly. Good. Okay, good. Success starts with the student athlete experience for me. Winning and losing is the metric. It's the absolute metric of whether we're doing, in the fans or sometimes our consumer experience. That's what they view the lens. But for me, I think that being in the postseason is really critical. I want our teams to be competing for championships. Competing for a championship transformed my life. I had the opportunity to win a championship and play in a bowl game. I come back with all my teammates and my friends because over the years I celebrate with them because of that experience I had. So that is something that if we value the student athlete experience, we're aspiring for it. It's not just about the wins and the losses, but giving them the opportunity to compete in the postseason and giving them the chance to attain that greatest achievement is something that we'll be committed to. And that's what I define as success. That ability to come together as a team and compete for something great. And when we do that well, if we pay attention to all the steps that it takes to achieve that, the score takes care of itself. We'll have that opportunity to raise the banners and to raise more of them for our teams.
And for me, let me just tack on to that. I think the focus at Bowling Green has always been and needs to continue to be a very student-centered university. We are, public university, public good is all about making sure every one of our graduates, student athletes or non-student athletes, but if they're graduates of this great institution, they're prepared to go out and do amazing things. We compete at the highest level, Division I. We need to compete at the highest level academically as well. And I, earlier in this interview, you had mentioned about how athletics brings communities together, especially when you achieve greatness together. And in many ways, I think success here looks like certainly our athletic programs being highly successful, but it also being aligned with making sure that we are enhancing the student experience here and that we are challenging every one of our students to become perhaps more than they could imagine that they can become before they arrived here. So to inspire students to go out and be engaged leaders, citizens, great leaders in their careers, their family, their communities. We compete at the highest level academically and athletically, and certainly that is a commitment this university has always had, and we will continue to have.
Championship ring and a diploma. There's no greater
There you
achievement. You know, that's what we're aspiring for.
We have one last question before closing comments. The last question is about honoring traditions. What would you say to our alumni, to former student athletes about how you plan to honor traditions here at BGSU?
You know, traditions are, they're sayings, they're slogans, they're colors, they're brands, but traditions are also about people, and probably more importantly, when you walk around the stadium like I did last night and you meet people like Lee Meserve, who has been here since I started working in this industry, and I remember coming and being around him, and he's, you know, he's head to toe, you know, orange. He's head to toe. He is part of the fabric of what is part of this legacy that we have a responsibility to uphold. And there's so many other people that you meet, and I meet the donors and the supporters, and each one of these people, I met the alumni, the football alumni last night, and they were talking to me about how thankful they are they've been invited back to be included in the game day experience. That's part of that. That's part of that heritage. People are such a significant part of what we hold on to as being the identity and the fabric of this great institution. So those things are all important to me. I will value them. I'll embrace them. I need to learn more about them. I'm learning the right way to shake hands. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm getting there. You know, Isaac Zumba, making sure that we sing it, watching our football players sing it in the locker room, and with such pride and such passion. Those are all the things that I'm going to embrace and value. I will learn. I need to learn. I want to meet more of the people that are part of that tradition and learn their stories and their experiences, because that's something that I want to make sure I carry forward. It's my responsibility here is to make sure we don't drop the ball on any of those traditions, and that the next generation gets to benefit from those as well.
Okay, closing comments. Derek, we'll start with you.
Yeah. No, I'm excited to be part of this community. I'll serve you with passion. I'll serve the tradition of this institution with great resolve to embrace everything that's been great about this institution and its people. I'll serve the donors, the supporters, our student athletes first and foremost, and help our coaches to support them to achieve great things. We're going to raise more banners here, but we can only do it if you're part of it. Our student athletes can't do it alone. We need our donors, our supporters, and ticket holders to step forward and to become part of this institution. We need our students to understand their responsibility in doing that. This is a team sport. Building championships, building great programs is not just on Scott Loeffler. It's on making sure that all of us step forward and are part of helping him to do great things at this institution, and helping Coach Eigner, and helping all of our coaches, you know, Daniela, and helping all of them to achieve great things is all of our responsibility. And I'm looking forward to working with you to do that.
Great. Well, I want to thank everyone for joining us on this live stream. We're very excited, as you can see, to have Derek join us as the 15th Athletic Director at Bowling Green. Every time I walk into the Stroh and through the Schmidhorst Heritage Hall, I am reminded of the history of Bowling Green athletics. But you know, athletics has played such an important part in the history of our university. And as I you know, come and go on trips in and outside of the Bowling Green and come back to the city of Bowling Green, I'm reminded of how we are one as a city and as a university together in our region. That is the power, certainly, of athletics. It's a power of a major public university like a Bowling Green. And I can't tell you how excited I am about our future. These are opportunities in athletics changing. Division I athletics, things are changing. But what we know are those that are creative, that are willing to take some risks, that are able to think and act boldly. There are great opportunities. But I want to final comment by saying what you said, Derek, was the importance that each of you help us to achieve that success. We have so many alums, nearly 200,000 alums spread throughout the world. And certainly athletics is an important part, but all of this institution, there are so many great programs we have here. But we need support of each and every one of you. And that could be your advice, that could be your attendance at games, plays, musicals throughout the campus. But I love the energy of this place. I love our students. And Derek, I think you're going to grow to love this place as well. Welcome to Bowling Green. And as we say, of course, Zumba.